Good Monday at 6 o'clock here with Shihab Burke today. I'm Sam Shihab with the law firm of Shihab Burke, and with me is,
Brian Burke, here I am.
and we're going to be having a conversation about the most recent release of the Visa Bulletin.
Yeah,
The last, it's the really the last one,
of the fiscal
and
year. Yeah,
there has been some surprises in there. Brian, just a quick introduction. We are immigration attorneys. We practice immigration law in the US and throughout the world. We do employment immigration and we do family immigration. And we meet every week at 6 o'clock, every Monday at 6 o'clock, and spend an hour, answer your questions. Um, um, Between Brian and myself, we have a combined more than 40 years of immigration law experience with focus on employment, immigration, and
for
family
sure.
immigration. And therefore, we can probably give you some insight on what it is that is happening and also listen to you and learn from you because if you stop learning, you stop living, I guess.
Mhm.
Brian, the visa bulletin is released, and it's not exactly great news today with regard to EB3, rest of the world.
Yes, rest of the world, including Mexico and the Philippines, because the bottom line is those folks on final action dates lost a year. Basically, I believe it was on August. They were in December of 2021. In here in September 2024, or the Future Visa Bulletin, they are back in December 2020. A year, a pretty miserable thing for people who are optimistic to see that category move forward. A pretty highly accessible category with a lot of people in it. That's a problem for them for sure. So
I don't remember the name of the gentleman that was contributing to our discussion last week, but there was a gentleman who was talking about what's my projection. We've talked about it, and um, we did not, of course, have this visa bulletin, but he must be very disappointed because he was hoping. I think he has like 1 year left or something
yeah,
to go ahead, and now it's moved back instead of moving forward.
yeah. I mean, and a total loss for the fiscal year. I mean, we were looking back at the EB3 rest of the world, and in the middle of this fiscal year, I think it was sometime all the way into 2023, and then it's just crept backwards. And I guess, Sam, it's worthwhile to talk about what the Department of State says about this.
Yes, yes.
So they say they have commentary on retrogression on the employment base. There's two bits of comments, and I think they're really kind of both relating directly to the retrogression in EB3. So firstly, there's a part D on the September visa bulletin. The heading is availability of employment-based visas during September. And they say I'm going to see if I can put it on top of my face instead, so people can read it instead of me, Sam. I'm going to take one more crack at it. Let's see what I get.
Do it.
Can you see it?
I don't see it.
Darn. Well, I'm not going to. Wait, I have one more thing to try because I can put it right here. It's just going to be
Why
a
don't you take
poor
both
view.
of us down and put it up?
It's not really working that way. But what I'm going to
You're
do is I'm
in.
going to
Boom.
there you go.
Now
Hard
we
to
are
look.
small at the bottom.
Yeah, a little bit
Covered.
smaller. I would just like to show the slide view, but this is good enough. And I'll zoom in a little bit so maybe everybody can read it just a little bit bigger. My technology is not as cooperating as I would like it today, but good enough. Here we are. So there has been a steady increase in both USCIS and Department of State demand patterns for employment-based visas during the fiscal year. As a result, most employment-based preference category limits for fiscal year 2024 are expected to be reached during September, if not sooner. If at any time an annual limit were reached, it would be necessary to immediately make the preference category unavailable, and no further requests for numbers would be honored. So what does that mean, Sam? It means they're saying we're getting to the bottom of the barrel, right? And once we run out of once we run out of visas, we are make it so we can see us down there. Once we run out of visas, we're going to mark the visa bulletin as unavailable. No more visas for anybody for fiscal year 2024. Simple enough, in my estimation, anyway. The other thing they have on the end here is this little bit here. Here we are. retrogression in the employment-based third preference EB3 and other workers EW categories. So as readers were informed was possible in item D of July 2024 and August 2024 Visa Bulletin, it has become necessary to retrogress EB3 final action dates for the rest of the world, Mexico, Philippines, as well as the EW other workers final action dates for the rest of the world and Mexico. The issuance totals in these categories are rapidly approaching the annual limit for fiscal year 2024, necessitating slowdown of issuance rates. It is anticipated that the final action dates will advance in October 24. However, date movement will depend on worldwide demand for EB3 and EW visas and the estimated fiscal year 2025 category limit. So basically, it's generally here. Yes, 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 yes. In all categories, we're running on to the end of visa availability, but in this category for this is maybe a good question, Sam. So here it says for all categories we have higher than demand and we're running out, and eventually we're going to have to put up a U for unavailable, right? They essentially say the same thing for EB3, but they have to retrogress EB3 as well. Why do you think that is, Sam?
Um, well, that's an excellent question because we were also.
Can't they just take the last case and mark it U? You know, why must they frustrate people by retrogressing?
Yeah, we've been talking about that. I mean, obviously, the distinction in their mind. Obviously, there is a distinction in the way they're conducting business. To us, as consumers of the Visa Bulletin, we see no difference. Either way, you cannot apply for more cases.
Sure.
I think there is maybe the feeling that there are some older numbers that they can continue to accept rather than making it unavailable, because unavailable shuts it down completely for everyone.
Yeah. Yeah. Whereas
Whereas
retrogression slows down the
to a trickle,
water to a trickle. Yeah.
and maybe a trickle they can handle.
But
But yeah,
yeah,
I'm speculating. I
yeah.
mean, it's not making any sense.
I think it is. I mean, I don't know. Maybe people at our audience can tell us. It seems to me just kind of like unnecessarily psychologically damaging, because they say, "Yep, when we get to the end, we're going to push. We're going to update it to you, and we won't take any more." Right? And it seems to me somewhat illogical that if you get to the end of the EB3, run out of visas in that category for the year, why can't you just mark that U and stop it and stop people the stress? Because really now these people again, you mentioned somebody we were talking to last week who was maybe about a year off then. Now they're 2 years off. And the unnecessary, I don't know, trauma of it all. The walking 10 steps backward, you know?
How about potentially
Okay.
I mean, a distinction without a difference, but I guess since we're talking anyway.
Well, why is there a difference then?
Potentially,
Okay.
um, they don't want to send a message that they have accepted your case. They are still processing it because they retrogress the visa bulletin. With unavailable, maybe it may be sending the message that, hey, we took your case, unavailable going forward, but you're good. Whereas with a retrogression, they're telling you we've taken your case, but we're shelving it. So there's a retrogression is more severe. We've taken 5,000 cases or 500 cases in the last 3 months, and we just cannot handle these cases. So retrogress them. If you make them unavailable, maybe
stop the cases from coming in.
No, even the cases in the pipeline that they have received.
Yeah.
They're sending the message we cannot process them. Unavailable sounds like forward thinking. Unavailable anymore. So
well, yeah, I guess, yeah, I guess
the line is drawn today as opposed to everything even that we're working on.
Yeah. I mean,
speculation, Brian. Bottom line is this.
Sam, I demand concrete answers from you that make me feel good, and everybody in our audience feel good.
I don't have concrete today.
Well,
I have very wishy-washy answers because I don't know the difference. Because the difference is it's the same. I mean, I guess, yeah.
Well, I'm just sort of thinking aloud about it. So, I mean, I guess you're right. It's the same difference because I don't know what you means. Sam, I guess I'm taking for granted that there's some sort of continuity between the visa bulletin.
Unavailable, Brian.
Mhm,
Unavailable. If the visa bulletin was open last month and
mhm,
they took your case,
mhm,
okay, and this month is unavailable, there
mhm,
might be the impression that because they took your case last month, you're still going to get a green card.
mhm,
It's unavailable as of this month going forward.
mhm.
Whereas a retrogression is
Says
a
not.
clear message that even the case we took last month,
I
we will
got you. I
not
got you.
process.
We're taking cases up, and we're going to be approved cases to the last minute until the green cards are gone for those people. But for you, it's
Yeah.
it's not a chance in hell. Guy who's
Again, I'm
yeah,
speculating,
yeah.
but
Okay.
I mean, for them there is a difference. For them, there is a
Yeah,
difference.
yeah, yeah. I just, I guess what Sam, I generally think about the Visa Bulletin as, as having some sort of continuity. Like, oh yeah, we moved ahead, we moved backwards. And I guess it really doesn't. It just represents a fresh calculation every month, doesn't it? Movement forward doesn't. I would say I'm trying to reconfigure my mind as
And
to what.
the rest of the world, visa bulletin has moved forward aggressively
Yeah.
in
Oh,
recent times until to 2023,
yeah. I believe we saw it in 2023.
mid 2023, and then they moved it back.
Yeah,
Um,
let's. I believe that was like
yeah,
in April. I'm going to look it up right now. I still have the Visa Bulletin page open, but yeah, I believe it was much further ahead throughout the fiscal year. That is for sure. And you know, I guess in my mind, until we started talking about this live here, I was thinking this Visa Bulletin is better for the people who are in the categories that are just going to be haven't retrogressed and going to be marked unavailable, because I'm sort of taking for granted that the numbers that we're at right now are going to be the baseline for the next Visa Bulletin, right? I don't think they are. I am choosing to reconfigure my brain and say the next Visa Bulletin is it's entirely its own beast, and they're going to calculate those numbers without any deference to what the last month said. It's not about movement forward month. It's a truly singular calculation of this month. I don't know whether what I'm saying is making any sense, but I guess I'm getting on board with you saying that it's nobody is in any way better off. Yeah, for the record, Sam, I'm looking at the April Visa Bulletin, and the final action dates for EB3 rest of the world were in November 2022. So pretty darn far ahead there for sure. So,
so with a lower expected spillover,
mhm.
because the consulates have done better, assumingly. Although
Well,
we
I have some data on that for everybody, Sam.
okay, sounds good. So on the family side, Brian,
Yeah.
we continue to see, and I would be interested to see your data. We continue to see struggle by the consulate to process cases from our practical experience, but there's
This is
improvement
very
for sure.
This is very true. So because we should talk about, it's an interesting topic for our audience, our practical experiences. But I'm going to pull back my slideshow here, and I'm going to get rid of that graphic so people can really sort of see it all. There we are. Well, they won't be able to see the very bottom of. Yes, they will. Oh, darn it. Well, what this is, Sam, is I did a quick and dirty sort of mining of the visa issuance statistics from the Department of State for the fiscal year 24 year to date, as comparing it against the fiscal year 2023 uh, through June, right? Just to see how we are doing, how the Department of State is doing on all visa issuances at the consulates this year versus all visa issuance at the consulate uh, prior year, right? And
Yes.
the and I'm going to see if I can move. Oops, I lost my. Oh boy, Sam! I keep on moving. I'm moving everybody around, and everything is becoming a mess. But here we go. Back to the slide. I will. The number won't be able to be seen, but here's what it is. For fiscal year 2024 through June, consulates have processed about 458,000 immigrant visas, where for fiscal year 2023 through June, they did about 445,000. So that means we are about 13,000 up over the last fiscal year.
Which
And
represent about 3% improvement only.
Fair enough.
But that tells me that there might be some spillover.
Well, yeah. I mean, I was surprised for fiscal year 2024. There was a spillover of 20,000 visas, 20,000 unused visas from family categories that rolled over into the employment categories. Employment baseline is 140,000. There were about 160,000 available this year. And relative, so I mean, this is not a very scientific calculation. This is just all the visas issued by the consulates. I'm not sorting them out by family. I'm just trying to see if the consulates were any more productive this year. And it seems that they were. I will trust your number that 3% is accurate there. And that doesn't seem so bad. I guess maybe we can be hopeful for a little bit of spillover this year because, again, I'll take anything beyond 140,000. Anything beyond 140,000 makes me happy. It's more than I feel so sorry for the family-based person who didn't get it. But bottom line is, I will take anything I can get.
Well, so the consulate, I mean, obviously, maybe that number is going to be somewhere between 5 to 10,000 more green cards spilling over this year. Not a significant number that changes the dynamics or the equation.
It doesn't seem that we get any sort of massive rollover like we have seen.
It looks like less than last year, and last year we got 20,000.
It would seem logical to say less than last year. Again, this calculation wasn't very scientific, but it seems if the consulates are more productive, the consulates mostly do family immigration, thereby there should be less visa rollover this year. Simply put.
Yeah.
So Sam,
and the backlog they have is still massive.
Oh yeah, so let's talk about the backlog.
Yeah, I mean the consulate backlog. I mean we have been very busy, unfortunately, filing lawsuits on delay cases for clients, and we continue to do that.
Historically, for the last, I don't know, maybe for the last 2 or 3 years, we've kind of been in an uptick in suing the federal government on behalf of families that are being hurt by the consulates not processing their cases. Lots of, with the biggest delays being in East Asia, East Africa, and the Middle East, I guess. And the consulates there have just been absolutely slow, bringing us to the courts. And I guess, and that's bodes poorly for those people. But the bottom line is, it's slow consulates mean less visas issued, means more employment-based visa rollover, I guess is the short answer there. Yeah. It's really kind of unprecedented times. We have seen consulate slowness for maybe like the last 4 years is really when it's been. And really, anytime we're doing any sort of family immigration case anymore, I'm absolutely warning people, especially if they're coming from certain regions, expect big delays when it comes to the consulate actually scheduling you for that interview.
Yeah, I mean, you're right on the money there in terms of, I think they are just overwhelmed, and the COVID got them into a hole, and they are still in that hole. I mean, they're not out of the woodwork on processing visas in many places.
Well, let's talk about the politics slightly. I mean, a lot of the slowness was, as I perceive it, the prior administration basically stopped hiring at the Department of State. I haven't really followed the news story of Department of State hiring in the new administration, but basically the consensus seemed to be that there was a brain drain during the prior presidential administration, and maybe we've seen the impact
consequence of that.
Yeah.
Okay, good presentation, Brian. This is anything else we want to talk about? I mean, do you want to predict next month, or you want to stay away from predicting?
I guess, here's I'm going to try to convey my point again, because I feel, and you're going to tell me if this makes any sense, because it feels like I'm spouting gibberish. So it's going to be an optimistic thing. EB3, rest of the world, Mexico and Philippines lost a year on this visa bulletin. And I guess the state of mind I'm choosing to be in is, just because it lost a year now, I don't think that's necessarily the baseline where, all movement is calculated based upon December 2020. It is if they can in 1 month eliminate a year of movement, they can in 1 month add a year of movement and then toss some more on that. I think a big movement on the EB3. I don't know. I could probably
this is where you and I are going to differ.
I think it is,
because credibility will be so shaken by doing something like that.
They've already shaken their credibility, Sam. They had.
Well, no, they're working. I mean, well, sure.
clearly, we have a disagreement here. I'm irritated.
Yeah. So I agree. There's no credibility, but you can even get less credibility, right? So I think the whoever is trying to manage the visa bulletin is trying very hard to establish some stability in the process, and that's why it's been moving very slow in the forward movement. I think they blew the EB3 in terms of management. They definitely did mismanaged it because it moved up and then down again. But for it to move up again that quick, everybody's going to shake their head and they're going to say, "What the heck is going on?" If there's going to be any forward movement, Brian,
Yeah.
it's going to be a slow one, in my opinion. But I hope I'm wrong. I hope you're right.
Well, I'm gonna say, if there's any big movement, people are gonna be forward again. People are gonna be shaking their head this way rather than the opposite
Well, I hope you're
position
right.
because
Yep,
darn it,
I would
they
be
want
one of them. I'll be
to. Okay,
happy. Yeah.
all right.
Sounds good. So this is the time when we're gonna start taking some questions. Brian, give them the standard disclaimer about what we do here, so people understand, you know, what we're trying to accomplish here
Yeah.
for everybody.
Well, the bottom line, this is really primarily a conversation between Sam and I. We, of course, look at the things you send us in the chat. They give us important things, some interesting things to talk about. But fundamentally, we only get a little bit of information about you, and I will hit you square between the eyes with it and say, your presence here with us does not create an attorney-client relationship. And you really, if you have a serious immigration issue, you should talk to an immigration attorney of your choosing about your issue to really make a good decision. Bottom line is we're only getting a little piece of information about you, and we don't really have the full picture. And the devil is in the details in the work that we do, of course. So keep that in mind. Take your issues directly to an attorney. Have a private conversation. There's so many good immigration attorneys out there. Find somebody who focuses on employment-based immigration. Sam, as I've anecdotally told you many times, I find that's maybe 10% of immigration attorneys do employment immigration. So keep that in mind when you're trying to choose somebody. Something to think about. So got some questions here.
Well, we got a comment from RK here. It's interesting.
RK. Oh yeah. So the most recent one here. Sure. So let's see what we got from RK. Oh, I missed the first part of it here. So that EB3 September, it seems the new thing because it happened last year when it was retrogressed to May 1st, 2022. Sorry, he said asterisk 2020, and then got to November 2022 this year. Yeah, that's what I was looking at in April. They did a similar retrogression in India EB1 with a 10-year retrogress before moving it forward over the fiscal year. I guess the fundamental question, I guess I would first ask a question back to our audience. Do you feel good about those 10-year, 1-year retrogressions? Would you rather just have the visa bulletin just go you? I think I would like that better, Sam. I like the concept of the fire hose. This is the fire hose being fully open and then off in a moment's notice. I don't understand.
So RK is saying Charlie Oppenheimer says they no longer put the U because some
Oh,
persons took it as immigration stop, while with a date it gives a misleading idea that it's X amount of years. Well, both are misleading,
yeah.
or both are not misleading. We have been in an immigration stop practically for a long time.
Well,
So
under the current immigration laws, where they give 140,000 a year, 7% per
and
country. Yeah,
stop worrying about the politics of it and do it,
yeah.
right? Count the number correctly. They're just worried about this will mean this. All these numbers are guesses and they're best estimates, and that's what the law says.
Hmm. Well,
They just
but
have to put a U and then put a star on it and explain
yeah,
that what U means and what
yeah.
to
Those
expect,
who
what
are
not to
interested in the
expect.
visa bulletin, I don't think the average person who's interested in the visa bulletin isn't going to be above reading a little what does an asterisk mean on something
Yeah.
like that. It means we're out of visas. It doesn't
With all due
mean
respect to Charlie,
yeah,
he's out now,
yeah.
and he was really tried hard to do things
Oh yeah,
the best
those
possible.
chats he gave for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, and he's moved on, and then there's other people doing it, but maybe he has an insight.
Well, I think the number one frustration that people have with, at least from my perspective, I talk to people about immigration, is lack of good information. Even from USCIS processing times to green card processing times. I think people can accept that. The visa bulletin is calculated on a monthly basis. You can't really predict it. You just sort of hope and pray. But the fact that if Charles Oppenheim is out there saying, well, we did it to not mislead people. Well, I mean, you're right, Sam. I agree with you. To not make it accurate is misleading. Tell them
Where I find,
what's really
yeah,
going on.
yeah, where I find it to be, I mean, somebody has to make that leap in understanding that publishing the way they calculate the numbers, because they're hiding that, you know, they're
Yeah.
publishing the thinking behind it, the rationale, the analysis behind it, some kind of, and posting it, and let all the people out there who are very smart look at it, dissect it, and tear it apart. It helps the next visa bulletin, because they're going to say, you didn't divide this number by two, or you took this number from here to here, but you forgot that. And they will say, oh, you're right. Well, let's go ahead and fix it next time. It allows, and then once you go through probably 5 or 6 of these very painful critique of the visa bulletin,
Yeah.
then it's refined, becomes a refined process
Oh,
and more accurate. And people don't complain anymore because
oh,
they know,
I am
yeah,
specifically interested in the fact that no doubt in the audience of people who are waiting on their priority to become out, there's some data scientists out there who if they had access to the best data could probably do a much better version
yeah, and the
of the visa.
government benefits, and the
Yeah.
numbers become more accurate. And not only that, but also criticism will subside.
Yeah.
People
Yeah.
will, right now we criticize the visa, the State Department and USCIS, because there is garbage in, garbage out.
Mhm.
And this retrogression is nothing but a reflection of the fact that the government does not have a handle on visa numbers coming in, visa numbers going out, and they're coming out with reports that are probably incorrect, incomplete, leading to all this,
Yeah.
frustrating numbers.
The text about I'm gonna agree with you, and I'm going to just elaborate on the text about unanticipated demand for visas. How can you not anticipate it? For every visa there is an I-140 approved out there. The only question is is somebody going to actually go through with filing that green card based upon it? That's all. And you maybe can't predict that, but you can definitely know exactly what your maximum liability is in terms of visa issuance. That's for sure. You know, and that's the frustrating point for me. I mean, I don't know if people would be happy. Maybe they should change the law. Maybe they should make it a use it and lose it sort of scenario. We skip your number unless you give us a really good reason. Now I don't like that because I know so many people who are have who couldn't file for a green card in say October 2020 because they were between employers, that sort of thing. But I don't know. There must be a better way because uh, I don't think I should be surprised with the visa bulletin anymore, Sam. But they still keep on finding ways. You know.
Yes. Um, let's take the next one.
Yeah. Let's see here. RB here. So I want to change status from L to H4. I also have H1B. If I get a new job, can I switch back to H1B when the H4 is still pending for adjudication with USCIS and a decision is not yet made? Also, what should I say to the H1B petitioner on this matter? So that's a pretty good question.
It's a good question, but this is a classic question that has so many missing parts.
Yeah, yeah,
So we're gonna have to fill in the gaps
yeah.
and assume a few things so we can give an answer based on these assumptions.
Sure.
So I want to change status from an L visa to an H4. So the person is in the U.S.
Hmm.
First assumption,
Sure.
and is
Married to an
on some
H1B.
kind of an L. It could be an L1 or it could be an L2. We don't
Yep.
know,
But
but
they're
an L
married.
visa.
Yeah, they're
But
married to an H1B holder if
the
they think
spouse
H4 is
is,
an option.
yes.
Yeah.
I have an H1B, i.e., I have an I-797 approval for an H1B
Hmm.
visa.
Sure.
I'm assuming does not have an H1B stamp. Um, would that be an assumption you're comfortable with? May not. May
Yeah.
have an H1B
Yeah.
stamp.
Well, let's
Let's
talk
keep
about
that open.
why that matters real quick. I mean,
Okay.
basically, we're curious as to whether or not this person has actually been counted under the H-1B cap, right? Whether they've been given H-1B status or gotten a visa, right? So that's
Absolutely.
the one thing that's
Yes.
out
So
there.
that's a question mark.
Yeah.
If I get a new job, can I switch back to H1B? So back to H1B. Let's assume that he got on H1B before, back to H1B. So
It,
he's being counted in the cap.
yeah, that's a kind of an unusual scenario from H-1B to L. Just tossing that out there. But yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
when H4 is still pending. Okay. All right. For adjudication. So, Brian, why don't you start giving your
Okay.
analysis on this?
So sure. Um, you can switch back to H1B when an H4 is pending. Um, if you are, but there, oh man, Sam, you're right. There's so many moving parts here.
Final action rule?
Well, I mean, let's say hypothetically, you're still maintaining L1 status, right? And then you file an H4 change with a request for the start date in the future, right? And um, and then you file H1B. If you're still maintaining L, what they can really do is, who cares about that H4? Approve your H1B immediately, right? If you're still maintaining your L status, right? But if you leave behind your L and are sort of waiting, you need your H4 to be approved. Well, you can still file that H1B to get on H1B status, but that H4 will have to be approved eventually. And what kind of how does that happen? Well, one, the H4 just might get processed, or two, they might issue an RFE on that H1B saying, whoa, 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 whoa. We can't approve that H1B because we need to approve this H4 first. And we've gotten those RFEs, and sometimes it's um, we basically send an RFE response saying, oh yes, you can, but that H4 still needs to be approved. And then and then all those questions you raise about the last action rule come up there. If the H1B is approved and the H4 is still pending, comes the question: do you still need that H4? Can you withdraw it? And what happens if the H4 gets approved after the fact?
So, I'm going to summarize what you said.
Good luck.
A switch from an L to an H while the H4 is H1B while the H4 is pending is possible under certain circumstances.
Pretty good summary, yeah.
And these circumstances need to be looked at closely so we can make sure that it can be done.
Okay. Now I know my answer was very convoluted, Sam, and I very much appreciate the summary. But RB has a part two to the question, which is one I can answer. What should I say to the H1B petitioner on this matter? You should talk to the immigration attorney that is filing this.
Well, not only that, but without the petitioner, the switch to an H1B cannot happen.
Yeah.
So what you should tell them is, I'd like to join your company. Now, if the H1B petitioner is same as the L visa petitioner for him,
yeah,
I'd like to switch to an H1B, but why would you want to switch to an H1B? And also, if the petitioner same H1B and L the same company, they're less interested in helping you switch to an H1B because by you switching to an H1B, you can transfer out a lot easier.
That's very true.
Whereas an L to an H, it has to be approved with premium processing anymore. It may not be that much of a big deal.
Sam?
Right.
I'm also worried whether this person has any time left on H1B. You know, L time goes towards H1B. You get 6 years on H1B, and I haven't seen anything in this fact pattern about an improved I-140. Meaning, if you don't have, if you've used up 5 years on, say you're on L1B, if you used up 5 years there, you have 1 year if you're lucky on H1B. But this person has been on H1B before, so they could have precious little time left. They could have practically no time left. If they've been on H1B for a while, spent 5 years on L1B, they could be totally done.
I'm going to assume he hasn't approved that one for you.
Wow.
I'm going to assume that.
Wow, Sam, that's a big assumption. There's nothing
there.
Yeah,
but he is on your show.
Yeah.
He hasn't approved that one for you.
I don't know, Sam. I feel like they're more likely to do.
Well, let's see if my prediction, which is completely a shot in the dark, is correct. So RB,
well, let's
go out there and tell us. Go ahead and post it. Let us know if you haven't approved that one.
I don't know why I'm crossing my fingers. I want RB to have it approved. I-140. That's good, but
Let's see what RB. We'll take the next question and we'll wait for RB to come in and chime in.
Yeah, let me see here. From Laith Frage. I will apologize for the butcher of the pronunciation. Can both of you predict the date of filing for EB2 rest of the world on the October Visa Bulletin? No.
Can we predict? No. Should we predict? No. Do you want us to predict and be wrong? Sure. We'll try.
So let's talk about where EB2 rest. Let's just talk a little bit about EB2 rest of the world. We'll talk where it's at right now, and maybe we'll say something that's that our viewer is interested in hearing. So EB2 final action date for September Visa Bulletin rest of the world is the 15th of March 2023. That's pretty darn recent, you know. That's surprisingly recent. I mean, the processing time for a labor certification, Sam, is about a year. It's about a year and a month.
Yeah.
So literally, if you have a priority date of March 2023, I mean, your I-140 must have just been recently approved. If you did a labor certification based one, I guess is that. I guess where this time frame would hurt more would be for a national interest waiver person, because they could have gotten a very quick I-140 approval, and now they're pulling their hair out, saying, "Well, when's my date going to come up?" Because you could realistically have a 2024 priority date and a national interest waiver approval at this point.
Yep.
So I guess, Sam,
What's your prediction?
I would sincerely hope for some forward movement on it, but to the degree to which, based upon, I'm going to presume, Sam, because that this person has a labor certification based I-140, right? And meaning their priority date is how far ahead could it be, Sam? I mean, we're getting recent labor certification approvals for ones filed in May of June 2023. So this person is likely just a matter of months off. So I guess if I'm making a big reach, but presuming somebody's priority date. But I would say that if your priority date is April, May, June, it's not so crazy that you should see that priority date come current in the next fiscal year for if you're EB2 rest of the world, I guess is my yeah.
So, do you have a projection?
I don't have a projection, but I have, the Brian's is it crazy meter. And I don't think it's, again, I'm presuming this person, because I'm looking at our labor certifications right now, Sam. They're moving on to the new labor certification portal. The labor certifications in the old portal, the final one we have, and I think it's going to be the final one we get out of the old portal, was a case that was filed in May of 2023. And if this person has an approved I-140 and their labor certification based, they can't have a priority date much later than that, maybe June.
The October. So my prediction is the October visa bulletin
Mhm.
will be very close to the September visa bulletin date with a 2 to 3 week movement only.
The movements
And
have been more conservative in the last while. That's a fair answer.
yeah, and then you will see the first stab at it the first quarter.
Yeah. I guess I never commented specifically on October, and you gave that, so I will salute you, Sam. I guess I'm still saying that priority date, a priority date in May or June of 2023, it doesn't seem crazy that it would come up on the rest of the world during the next fiscal year.
I
But
don't.
October, that's tough for
Yeah,
me to say.
I don't think the October visa bulletin is just totally personal feeling. Um, is analyzed carefully as the first, second, and third quarter or visa bulletin. So they're coming out of the box. I think because they have so many cases, unless they're short on cases, but I think it's going to just be a continuation with from the prior month with a nudge forward
I could
first, and
I could
then
see how you could arrive at that opinion for October by virtue of the fact that, hey, we're going to have more visas available in the next quarter, so you don't have to be exacting with your October calculation. Is that your basic logic there?
I got 12 months ahead of
Yeah,
me to
yeah,
move things,
yeah.
and those guys are not going
We'll
to run
catch
out
up.
of
We'll
work.
catch up. If I'm a little bit more generous, we'll catch up to this number maybe,
Yeah,
or
yeah.
or yeah.
Plus, I looked at the previous year. I cheated.
That's not cheating. That's using
Yeah,
the data. The
you
data
know,
you have.
and it's looking it because it's a more of a psychology than it is a number coming out. So I think the prior Charles used to move October visa bulletin aggressively and then pull back,
Yeah.
and that's the retrogression piece where people get frustrated
Yeah.
because he says he wants to open it up as quick as possible to allow people to apply, to allow time to process. Whereas I think what we got here is people who are worried about the retrogression and the criticism, and they would want to move cautiously forward rather than aggressively forward and move backward.
Yeah.
It's just more of a mentality, I think, more so than anything else. Ultimately, they don't have to be accurate; they have to be reasonably accurate.
Yeah. So I'm going to move on to the next one from Hari Guru. Um, Hi and good evening. What happens to H1 extension from employer A? Plan to work for employer B through Green Card EAD. Currently working with employer A, where my H1B extension is due soon. Where plan to work employer B using Green Card EAD might work or won't work. So I I think I'm a wordy guy, Sam, and I think there may be too much explanation here, and I'm going to simplify it down for Hari. It sounds like Hari has a pending green card and thereby has an EAD, right? And is planning to join another employer. And for me, that employer, yep, you join that employer pursuant to that green card EAD. You're leaving behind your H1B status.
But he's
That's it.
not sure it's going to work out.
Why wouldn't it work out, Sam?
That's what he's saying. Might work or won't work at the very end.
Yeah,
So he has an H1B extension
yeah,
with his current employer,
sure.
and then he has an opportunity.
Yep.
And the opportunity, he is thinking he would like to use the green card EAD for it, and but he's kind of want to feel it out. He has this job with H1B, and then he wants to feel out this employer B, see if it work or it doesn't work.
So,
And he would like to use a green card EAD for that, as his H1B extension is pending, and he's saying, "Do you see a problem?"
okay, so you're talking about maybe job B itself won't work, not the
Yeah,
immigration aspect, but the job itself.
the
Won't
job
work.
opportunity,
Yeah.
yeah, might work or won't work. That's my reading.
Well, that's a different reading than I have. So, Sam, what's your answer to that question? What does one do? How does one hedge?
Big problem that way, because the moment you work under green card EAD, you stepped out of the H1B,
Yeah,
and
that's not a big problem, though, right?
well, to the extent that you think that you have an H1B, because that H1B extension, salute, it's
Yeah,
gone.
it's gone. That employer will
So
withdraw
he
it or
has to
never
go
file it.
back and join the employer A under the green card EAD.
Yeah, if the employer A will still have him, I don't know if he's burning a bridge by leaving. Essentially,
So I think, again, I'm speculating here.
Mhm.
Plan to work for employment B through green cards. I bet you is concurrently. Currently working for employee A, where my H1B extension is due soon, where my plan to work for employment B using green card might work or might not work. Either concurrently, he's starting to work with them. Maybe he'll make a full switch. He may not make a full switch,
Mhm.
you know. But the bottom line is, whatever the fact may be, the moment you work with the EAD card, you no longer working for employment A on for H1B.
Yeah.
You're really working for employment A on green card
Now
EAD, whether
it's
you know it or not.
yeah, it's funny. It's whether USCIS knows it or not as well, because if you, during the pendency of this H-1B extension, go out on the side and start working for employer B, right? USCIS won't know, and they'll approve your H-1B extension.
And you
But
would think that you have one, but you don't,
yeah, because you have stepped out the rules of that
which
H-1B.
is not a problem
Yeah,
as long as you know that.
yeah,
The employer A has no idea. The I-9 is not up to date. Not the end of the world.
yeah. It's a really people think that what USCIS says and what USCIS knows, are have they don't line up all the time. Just your employer thinks you're on H-1B, but I know I'm using this green
Your
card
employer
EAD, but
think
I
you're
haven't
on,
told them.
your
Yeah,
employer think you're on H1B. USCIS thinks you're on H1B, but you're not.
yeah. And how would they
Uh,
find out, Sam? They'd ask you later. They'd ask you in a green card filing or interview, for example.
it becomes more of an academic exercise
Yes.
than a practical. It doesn't matter because you're authorized to work in the U.S.
Yeah.
So it's not a big deal. It's just as long as you need to know what your status is,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
So yeah,
It's not entirely academic though. It's touch wood. It's been a while since I've seen one, but the USCIS, it used to be they'd send out a lot of pending I-485 RFEs about show us you've been authorized for a period of time, and the answer is always very obvious. I had an EAD, but for some reason they issue those RFEs anyway. It's so not entirely. I would say not entirely academic, but the answer. Then again, I said those RFEs are always easy because, well, yeah, I had an EAD. What do you guys want? Could you guys look that up? But it is what it is. Yeah.
yeah. All right,
So
sounds good. So have we helped Harry? You think, Brian? Okay,
I think we have answered Hari's question like three different ways. Um,
right.
and
I think he
yeah,
has an idea. If he wants to take it next level, probably needs to talk to a lawyer
Yeah.
on a consultation.
Yeah.
All right, wonderful. What we got next, Brian?
Yes, I think this is a sort of RB. I think it's just the same question repeated again. Let's try RK here. Maybe we did this. Does USCIS and USCIS know if they publish the data, would they get a new lawsuit every month for the visa bulletin? So they hide behind their opaque system.
Good comment. I
Yeah,
appreciate that. They're getting sued anyways.
yeah.
Um, um, and yeah, let
What?
them get sued and let them straighten out. If I am working for the State Department
Hmm.
and I'm working for the Visa Bulletin and I'm publishing these dates, sue me because it makes my job easy. Why am I hiding behind shadows, of numbers? Maybe the judge would say Department of State must have better information, or which is not likely.
Yeah,
The likely scenario is the court would say probably is that these are
different.
estimate. They made reasonable estimate. Sounds like they made reasonable estimate. The regulation says you have to make reasonable estimate,
Yeah,
and that's all what you have to do.
yeah. So Sam, I wrote down a four-letter word when this topic came up. It's a real nasty one. FOIA. I keep on. You think you get if you FOIA that information, the calculations for the monthly visa bulletin. You think you get a good answer out of the
N-
Department of State?
No, you will not get
I
it,
know you never.
and you will not get it, and you have to go to court, and then I think probably you might be able to get it. I mean,
Yeah,
it should be available. There's no reason for it not to be available.
yeah. I would think it's a FOIA that don't get me started on Department of State FOIAs. Fun fact, I might be doing a FOIA appeal just out of spite, Sam. It's not. I don't need the FOIA response anymore, but they just did not. They said, "Oh, I'll spare you." But yeah, Department of State FOIAs ain't exactly fun. So there's that. So keep on moving onward.
Yep.
From MG here. If a not Sam, I'm sorry, I'm monopolizing these things.
No, 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 bro. I'll read it. If a non-immigrant visa extension is filed when in the U.S. but approved when outside, will there be an I-94B overwritten with all petition dates during reentry? What option do they have? All right. So you got an H-1B extension.
Hmm.
You file an extension, and you leave the country.
Hmm.
Right
That's
now,
allowed.
it's approved.
Yeah.
Oftentimes they are smart enough to figure out that you're outside the country, and they will say we can't send you an I-94 because you're outside the country, and they give you an approval. Sometimes they don't know, and they give you an I-94.
Oh, no, they'll usually give you a 994 if for an extension scenario, extension not abandoned, but but yeah, I think they'll usually give you 994 in that scenario. But
Now you re-enter the U.S.
yeah,
They will issue. Now you're gonna have this in your hand,
yeah, shiny
right?
new approval notice with I-94 attached. Yeah,
And you're entering the U.S. What
yep,
do? They issue a new I-94.
exactly, for sure.
And normally it does not necessarily matches the I-94 that you have received from USCIS.
Yeah. I think there's pretty much two scenarios that can happen here in terms of what customs will issue you in terms of the I-94. I think the smart ones, the ones who are very on top of it, they will issue, presuming the I-90, the start date on the H1B extension you have is in the future. They will give you an I-94 that covers you from the date you enter to the start date of your new I-94 that's attached to the approval notice. And they will sometimes do that. Sometimes, though, they will just give you a new I-94 based upon your two. If you're again your I-90, if your new approval notice starts in the future, sometimes they'll just give you a 3-year period of time from the day you enter, and let's leave it at that.
How about if they enter the United States
Hmm.
beyond the first I-94 date?
Okay.
So let's assume the I-94 date they
From
enter
initial.
today, August 12th.
Okay.
But the I-94 date, the first one expired August 11th,
Hmm.
okay, or August 10th,
Okay.
two
Okay.
days before. Now you're coming in, you have this I-94 effective August 12th,
Yeah.
okay, and you're coming in
Same
same
day.
day or effective August 11th. You come the
Yeah.
day after,
Well, they should be able to admit you then. They should have give you a customs I-94 that matches the full duration of the new approval notice if you're getting there in the first day of the approval notice.
or
Or
they will give you an I-94 that matches the expiration of your passport.
that secret answer. Yes, that sometimes
That's the
happens.
secret,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, that's sometimes.
And
Yeah,
and that's the zinger.
yeah,
And you walk in thinking you got the same I-94 date, and you don't.
yeah.
Um,
Public service announcement time. Check your I-94s.
yeah,
Check. It's not so bad. The most times the primary person does. It's the family members that are most likely to not have
I
those.
honestly think the worst thing that they've done is to create this electronic I-94.
I would agree.
It's horrible. It creates more problems. There's nothing wrong with stamping a date when they enter manually, and they can enter in
Yeah,
the
and they don't
system.
stamp
And then
passports
they,
as well
yeah,
either. And people,
yeah.
no offense to people, but they don't have to worry about it. They go tra la la la, and then John Q, immigration attorney, asks them for an I-94 when it comes time to extend the H1Bs and H4s, and the answer is, I'm sorry, you're out of status for 6 months, a year,
And
and
they'll give you this I-94 they got from USCIS, thinking that's the one,
yeah,
and it's not the one. It's
and
the I-94 that you received at the point of entry.
yeah, and people are very, I guess it seems like it should be possible to have one centralized I-94 that gets updated. One would hope.
Yeah.
You would think that the customs one could be updated by USCIS, and that would be the end of it.
How about if they want to do an electronic one?
Mhm.
Is to have a small printer, print it and hand it to the
Yeah,
person coming into the U.S. and here's your I-94.
yeah, yeah. It's literally it would really get like receipt printers. Those ones that are everywhere and every business has one. That would
It,
be a great.
it's all about expediting at the border, though. I mean, to do a printer, probably now the line is twice as long. It's just to do something like that,
Yeah,
Of course, I'm a U.S. citizen and I fly internationally every now and then, and they have gotten it to a point where you are inspected as a U.S. citizen in 3 seconds or
yeah.
less. If you are a verified, what do you call it? You have a verification
Global.
number,
Yeah, yeah.
global entry.
Global entry. Yeah,
You go in and they will put you in front of the machine that basically does not. You don't even need to enter your passport. They identify who you are already, and then you just simply walk, and the officer says, "Sam Shihab." You say yes. He goes, "Go in."
he
That's
says
it.
Brian Burke to me, but it's most of the same process. Yeah.
Yep.
No,
It says Brian Burke to you, and then you're in,
no.
and that's it. And you're inspected. It's so quick. It's probably 3 seconds or four
Yeah,
seconds.
yeah,
To create a printer and all that, I think they just want to process people quicker. Uh, because the lines are atrocious.
yeah.
My daughter got stuck in the wrong line, and she came to me and she said, "I knew they put me in the wrong line because here's everybody's opening up folders with papers." She said, "I don't know why. I'm a U.S. citizen." Yeah,
You
uh,
know, you know
she experienced it, which is good for her.
yeah, it is good. The
Yeah,
this bad part in being in the line, but the look in the face of the customs person when they find out you're a U.S. citizen when you get to the front of that line, and they're gonna, they're gonna say something. Well, you should have been on that line over there,
yeah,
and
yeah.
that's the worst part for me.
She's a kid.
Yeah.
All right.
So from Sophie, I have an approved I-140 EP2 national interest waiver with a priority date of May 30th, 2023. I'm preparing my I-485 package. Cannot get my travel history record from CBP. No record found for traveler. Is travel history required? Short answer is it could be required. Well, Sam, my practical answer is it's not on the. I don't. hmm. I
Here's
don't.
here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Let me take a stab at this. So I am number one. What is required is your last entry to the U.S. That's
Yeah.
100% is required, and that I-94 attaches to it.
Yep.
That's 100% required.
Sure.
Now, with regard to travel history, I need to look at the question that you're trying or attempting to answer on the adjustment status question with regard to what information is required. This form has mushroomed into a massive form,
Yeah.
and whether or not exactly the dates are required or not, depending on the question being asked. And I'd like that question in front of me so I can answer the question, unless
Yeah.
you have a better answer, Brian.
No, I mean, if it sounded like I was lacking an answer, it's really hard for us to answer case-specific questions specifically here in this.
Yeah, I mean, what? Yeah, I cannot find the question number 25 that asks the following question. How can I answer it?
Yeah,
We give you a stab at it so you have
yeah,
an idea what to answer. But
yeah,
yes, but you should know your travel history with reasonable certainty. You know,
yeah,
you're required to answer the question on every the questions for the form or on the form with your best known ability.
yeah,
You don't have to be 100% perfect.
yeah.
You
I
have to
mean,
be, yeah,
generally speaking, I would not include a travel history in there, but again, I don't know the exact circumstances of somebody's case. Is the $1,000 is the really the $1,000 question
yeah,
there?
yeah.
So yeah, one thing I would give advice in terms of getting travel history: try using a prior passport. If you had a passport change, it might be under your prior passport. The I-94 system from CBP is not very intelligent, and they don't link your passport documents. You might try putting in a prior passport to get some of your travel history there. So, Sam, sir.
Hello, I am an RN, and for EB3, my M4 is approved. Congratulations. I'm adjusting my status from F1 to EB3. My priority date is April 2024. When do you think I be current? So EB3, I-140, RN, and let me
Oh,
look at the visa
waiving
bulletin.
the labor. That's possible through waiving the labor certification. I imagine is what happened here. Schedule A
Yes.
occupations. Yeah.
So the
Excuse me.
question, yeah, and that's where the problem with RN nurses, they're getting backlogged significantly because of that. So final action date. I'm looking at
Well,
historical data here, so I should not be. I should refresh my page.
I'm going to
Um,
presume from a country that is not India or China, meaning, you know,
I concur on that assumption, on that presumption, Brian.
yeah, meaning, realistically, as I look at the September visa bulletin, the dates for filing EB3 are in February 2023, and the final action dates for EB3 rest of the world are in December 2020. I guess, for somebody like this individual, I guess you really have to be looking towards the dates for filing, because you want to be able to get a green card at the door. Because if you're on student status, you only have a finite amount of time you can be on student status. You probably need to get that I-485 filed so you can continue as a student. Is the bottom line there. And I guess I would say that
Well, obviously, F1, you got to continue studying until your priority date is current. Do
yeah,
not leave the U.S. because you have an immigrant petition pending.
you won't be able to come. Likely won't be able to come back. Yeah,
There's a chance you will not get your F1 re-honored, or you know,
yeah,
and then you may graduate and get an OPT. There is no evidence that OPTs are not being honored, at least with this
yeah,
administration,
yeah.
because you filed an I-140. But when do you think can I be current is a $25,000 question. I'm guessing um,
If
six months to a year.
I got to give it at least a year. It's on dates for filing. It's about a year behind. These things won't necessarily move in a linear way, but and Lord knows they can move back and forth as we discussed today. But you're a year off, and it's not so crazy for me to think it would take a year. And if backlogs are increasing, that means more than a year in my book. But then again, October visa bulletins can do funny things.
Yes.
Yeah, it's not so crazy for me that could come up in the next fiscal year. Which is about a year, which is actually about a year from now. You're still within next fiscal year, a year from now. So there you go. I like it.
Brian, it's 7 o'clock. Let's take one last question.
Shall we sort of spin the wheel here? So I wouldn't want to disappoint the person who is just next in line. So I guess I'll,
Take the one next in line.
yeah, yeah. So,
Daddy, his last name, and I'm gonna try to do the first name.
okay.
Or is that's the first? So my EB1A I-140 was approved with priority date of January November 1st, 2023.
Okay.
I have EB2 I-140 priority date of February 12, 2020. For my EB1, can I file I-485 with EB2 priority date? What do you
Y-
think, Brian?
Yes, you are allowed to use your EB2 priority date in the EB1 category. It's a little bit weird, though. Your I-140 approval notice in the EB1A category should reflect that prior date, as long as you requested to retain it on your I-140 filing in the EB1A category.
Was overlooked, was not
Yeah,
done.
you're still legally entitled to it for sure.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
need. Yeah, you can definitely do it.
yeah,
Okay, easy, straightforward one. Forward
yeah,
one.
yeah.
Thank you guys for listening us today. We are going to come back Monday at 6 o'clock Eastern time next week to do this one more time. Bring a topic of interest to the table, talk about it, and then answer your questions to the best of our abilities. From the law firm of Shihab Burke,